Hello, and welcome to The Report, Cal State Fullerton's premier source for news, views, and info. I'm Cassidy Jo Fortin.
I'm Evan BOYDSTUN.
I'm Michelle Vargas.
I'm Morgan CLINE.
And I'm Sarah FENTON. On today's episode, we will be updating you with the latest on the situation in Brussels with up-to-the-minute information on some new discoveries authorities have made in the wake of the attacks.
We'll also be talking about the latest military efforts set forth by North Korea and the possible danger this presents to the United States.
And we will be discussing a new law approved by California legislators that raises the smoking age to 21. Is this the right decision or not? The report has it covered.
All this and more on this episode of The Report.
We'd like to welcome Cassidy Jo Fortin back today. Thanks for coming back.
Well, thank you for having me. I had so much fun last time. It's good to be back. And welcome back, Michelle and Sarah, who were working on some awesome projects last week. Sarah, you were at the USC campus working with NPR. Tell us about that.
I was. It was great. So it was 5 students. 4 of them were USC students, and then me, so representing Cal State Fullerton.
Very nice.
And basically, we worked with NPR for the Next Generation project, and we were sent out to go find stories around Los Angeles. And my story was on a chef on Skid Row. So basically, she was a chef for celebrities, catering big premieres, left that job to go work and feed the homeless on Skid Row, which is awesome. So went out, interviewed her, spent a day with her. Amazing personality, great people over there. Put it all together for a radio story and a web piece, and it was awesome. Great experience.
Good. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And Michelle, I know you were working with Aztec America, so talk a little bit about that. What were you doing?
Yes, I was. So I had the pleasure and the honor to be the host of a live show called Solución Azteca, which actually airs once a month. And I love being part of the initiative because the show is designed to give information to the Latino Hispanic community that may not be informed on how to adapt to our culture here, right? So things like immigration laws or just any law in general to inform them and educate them of how we do things here in the United States. So it was great to be able to empower them and give them some awesome information, but I'm glad to be back.
Sounds like a great opportunity for the both of you. Please keep us updated on all of your projects. Our top story today, the search for clues continues in Brussels, Belgium, after terrorist attacks rocked the capital and killed at least 34 people and injured more than 270. Islamic terrorist group ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attacks, and 3 suspects have died. And, as CNN reports, a manhunt is underway for a 4th suspect who is said to have helped with the attack and the attacks in France late last year. One attack was at an airport where 2 explosions took place, and another was in a metro station where there was one other explosion. After seeing surveillance footage, the taxi driver who reportedly dropped the bombers off called the authorities, giving them the address where he had picked them up. Once authorities searched the residence, they found more explosive materials and an ISIS flag. A counterterrorism official said Wednesday that there are still a number of people who pose a potential threat to security in Belgium, and a number of other cities in Europe have been mentioned as being particularly prone to the attack. The AP reports that ISIS claims to have trained over 400 new terrorists to, quote, target Europe in deadly waves, end quote.
Meanwhile, here at home, many members of the political arena criticized President Obama for what they say is a less than tolerable stance on ISIS and the attacks on Belgium. GOP frontrunner Donald Trump said, quote, "We have to be smart and we have to be tough, and we can't be soft and weak, which is what we are doing right now," end quote. Ted Cruz also spoke out against the president this week when he called for an immediate stop to the flow of refugees with a, quote, significant al-Qaeda or ISIS presence, end quote. President Obama, who was in Cuba when the attacks took place, said, quote, "We stand in solidarity with them in condemning these outrageous attacks against innocent people," end quote. An increased effort has been made by police in many major U.S. cities, including New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles, to combat potential terrorist activity. So you guys, you know, ISIS is growing, obviously. Do you think the U.S. is doing enough to combat ISIS?
I mean, this is so difficult because ISIS at this point, it's not necessarily, yes, we know where some of their headquarters are, but it's almost like it's an idea now. That's why you have some of those radical people that are they're pretty much rogue warriors for ISIS, like with San Bernardino. So it's so hard to say that we can do this and that because we don't necessarily know the best way to fight this idea right now. Even though, yes, there are people that pledge to ISIS, but we just don't necessarily know exactly what to do. So I think that's making this fight extremely difficult. And I mean, we, with our intelligence agencies, they know, they have people on their list who pose or who are on the threat list, and some of the two of the bombers actually were on the list that posed a threat. So it's just unfortunate that they didn't do something about it beforehand in Belgium. So that's just kind of what I have to say about this. So anyone else?
I think the only thing we can do is like really just be prepared in case anything else happens. But then again, like people of like higher officials may be doing something that like we as society may not know about. So really though, I don't know. Like I'm only 21 and like I just like put my trust in those people who just have like our faith and doing the best that they can personally.
I think it's tough just because ISIS isn't like anyone else that we've fought before. It's not like one group that's in one location and we can go and send troops there and fight them. ISIS is everywhere. It's like you said, it's an idea. And so people from whatever country can say, I want to be part of ISIS, and then go and do something, even if they're not pledged to it. Like with the San Bernardino, I don't know if they were officially pledged, but they did it for ISIS. So it's kind of hard to fight something that's not really in one location.
I think what speaks volumes about their group is the fact that they're unified and there's solidarity. Although that, you know, they are in different parts in the world, that says a lot about how much they're empowering each other by working at a distance and still feeling close to each other in terms of tactics and plans. That just comes to show that if we are unified together here, we're very broken. If we, you know, there's only so much that we can do to try to impede these attacks, but we're feeling more, you know, our morale is falling and falling and falling rather than being that patriotic sensationalism in the United States and then saying, you know what, let's fight for us and all over the country, not just in the United States. But I think every country needs to kind of bring together, set aside differences and like the government issues and focus on the issue at hand. So hopefully it doesn't get worse. But do you have anything else to add, Cassidy, that you feel?
I just think it also raises awareness of whether it's safe to travel now, because like Sarah said, they could be anywhere. The attacks happened in Paris, the attacks just happened in Brussels. I know Morgan and I were just studying abroad last semester. I was in Rome when the Paris attacks happened. And so it just sort of raises an awareness of, is it safe right now for Americans to go out and travel? And also, should our government do more to warn us about different countries that we maybe shouldn't be traveling to?
Right. At this point, it's like, where in the world is it safe? We don't know. So, up to our next story, which is about the intensifying situation in North Korea. The country has launched 7 missiles over the past week, with the latest being launched this past Monday. The South Korean government claims that while the U.S. joined them for annual military drills, the North Korean military claimed to have multiple small-range nuclear missiles in their possession. 5 missiles were launched on Monday, and they flew about 123 miles toward the sea. Meanwhile, a group of North Korean officials have sentenced an American student to 15 years of hard labor for reportedly removing a political banner from their hotel, from the hotel he was staying at. And this is Otto Frederick Warmbier, which was visiting the country with a tour company through the University of Virginia. Warmbier confessed to the crimes in the emotional video, and the trial took just over 1 hour. The White House is accusing North Korea of politicizing this trial and is calling for the immediate release of Warmbier and cities which other cases have affected, like this one, as a reason to believe Warmbier will not have to serve his entire sentence. Now, the question at hand is, North Korea in the past has released, students or American citizens a lot shorter of the original sentence. Do you think that in this case they're trying to kind of have the upper hand over the United States and putting it over our heads?
Well, first of all, why are these people going to North Korea? I don't know. I thought that's always been one of the countries to kind of stay away from. Like, they're almost like the rebellious children your parents told you to stay away from, but just keep an eye on because you never know. But in regards to the missile thing, I think it's important to note that this happens every single year when the missiles happen. They always launch their missiles every single time the U.S. comes to South Korea, and they do drills. So that's important. So it's almost, so we just need to make sure that we note that it's not just them provoking it. There is a reason, there is a method to their madness, but still, I think it's kind of funny that one of their missiles that they tested was a misfire. So it's just a North Korean thing to do. But anyways, that I just think that it's crazy for Otto Warmbier, that 15 years of hard labor just for stealing a political sign. That's like if I walked up to someone's house and took off their Trump or Bernie sign and then took it away. All I would get would just be a slap on the wrist and an angry old man probably spraying me with a hose. You know, like there's not 15 years of hard labor. That's so ridiculous.
Right.
I kind of see both sides though, because when you do travel, you do have to understand that you can't go to these countries and act the way you want to act. Like here in the United States, you're innocent until proven guilty. Over there and in other countries, you can't just do whatever you want. You can't expect to be protected by U.S. laws. Then again, I do think 15 years of like labor, I think that's severe punishment, and I think that's a little overboard. I do think that there should be a lesson to be taught, especially to people who do want to travel. And if you do want to go see North Korea, go ahead, by all means, go see the world. But be smart about it. Don't go over there and just be who you want to be. You have to understand laws.
Yeah. Well, the touring company also said after the fact that we'll look at these other cases, basically saying he's not going to be there for long. Yes, he might not be there for long, but the fact of the matter is he is there, and he's there for however many years it is, and his family, like, they're obviously missing them, so all of that goes out the window. He's there, and the touring company, who's one sending them to North Korea? Like you said, why go to North Korea? And then if you are there, be conscious that you are in North Korea and you have to follow any law that is there. Be extra careful.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just, this is just a very interesting thing, and I think they are definitely politicizing it for sure, that they definitely do want that leverage over the U.S. right now.
Absolutely.
But President Obama traveled with his family to Cuba on Sunday in order to restore diplomatic ties with the country. The U.S. and Cuba cut ties many years ago, and since then, many Cuban citizens have reported suffering under the Castro regime. Obama hopes to give Cuban citizens more rights and improve the Cuban economy. He states that his approach to directly talk to the Cuban government will make these changes more feasible, and said, quote, "We will have more influence and have the greater capacity to advocate on behalf of the values that we care about when we're actually talking to them." End quote. The trip was received well among some politicians, but for others, like presidential candidate Ted Cruz, the trip was less than acceptable. Cruz called the trip, quote, "a sad day for America," end quote, citing worsening conditions for Cuban citizens and blaming the Obama administration for failed international policies abroad. As of now, Obama is trying to relax the restrictions on traveling to Cuba in order to improve relations between Cuban and American citizens. He explained that although these changes are being made slowly, in the future we will hopefully make more progress. The last sitting U.S. president to travel to Cuba was President Calvin Coolidge back in 1928. So do you think Obama's approach is going to help Cubans? And what do you guys think about this situation right now?
I think that if you live in the country, there's only so much that we can do. And the United States needs to stop playing the hero. You know, we have enough problems here in our country, in our society, and clearly within our government and in separation, that we shouldn't be going and mending. However, I do find that it's important and it's a smart tactic to have them in the happier side than on the downside, right? Because if at least you mend, decades, years upon years of tension, and it almost kind of seems petty to me. At this point, we're not being leaders of a nation, we're being petty and holding grudges. So I don't accept that Ted's comments should even be implied. He has his opinion, but I think Obama did the right thing, just kind of showing them, you know what, we're willing to work with you.
I think it's great that we went there. Maybe I think what they're looking at is the fact that it was kind of commercialized, like, oh, he's at a baseball game, when there's a lot more going on in the world. So I see that side, but I think we needed to be there. It's been decades since we've had someone there, and the fact that we've had now President Obama there, that's awesome. I think the big question is now, what's the next step moving forward? Are we going to go the route of the hero, like you said, Or are we going to open it to where we're now friendly with each other, and then we can send maybe tourists over there or send documentaries over there to make films? So I think that's a big question.
Yeah, and in regards to the baseball game that was going on, there was a sportscaster that was interrupted by a protester who was throwing out political pamphlets, and you see him in the background getting arrested. So obviously there's political unrest, of course, there. So it's just, who knows where it's going to go.
Yep. I just think it's absolutely like devastating. I read an article about, it said that 9 people had died while at sea, like leaving Cuba and trying to go to America. But I think a lot of that stuff isn't really like, at least like shown a lot. I think it's kind of hidden, so I think that's a little bit sad. But we will follow up to that story, and off to more news hitting the headlines. California legislators approved a bill that would raise the legal age of purchasing tobacco products to 21. The California State Assembly voted earlier this month to join Hawaii and many other national cities in raising the smoking age from 18 to 21. Democrats lobbied for the bill, saying it will prevent young people from picking up the habit and making it harder for high school-aged Californians to illegally obtain cigarettes or other tobacco products. Republicans, however, stated that the law infringes upon the right of Americans too much, and the government should let the adult citizens make their own decision. The bill would also impose harsher punishments on smoking at school or in the workplace, and also gives individual counties the right to place higher taxes on tobacco. The bill will now head up to Senate, who must approve the changes made before it heads to Governor Brown's office. So personally, what I think is that I think that they should leave it to 18, because I think when you're 18, you're an adult. You have the right to make your own decisions, what you want to do to your body, what you don't want to do. And in high school, you take those health classes, you learn what tobacco, smoking, drugs, alcohol, all do your body. And I think that they should leave it to the 18 age. I think that you do have the right to do that or not do that to your body. But what do you guys think?
I think I love this rule. Because I can't stand smoking. It's terrible. Obviously, the science has proved that it's absolutely detrimental to your health. And if that's the case, though, then that means they should just lower the drinking age to 18, and that means they should lower the age to rent a car down to 18, and also lower the age to go on a cruise to 18 too. Yep. So it's just, I think the fact that the Republicans, who are typically the conservatives, the ones that you would think that would be against the ones that would be for this bill, they're just trying to argue against the Democrats right now, which makes me extremely angry, because the Democrats understand the science behind this, and I think the Republicans are just trying to argue with them because, Democrats think this, we're not going to think this. And I think that's completely ridiculous, because obviously we know how bad smoking is for you, so.
And Cassidy, Joe, I know you interned for a company that was campaigning raising the smoking age. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
In high school, I interned for a company known as the California Friday Night Live Partnership, and basically their entire motto is to build partnerships for positive, healthy youth development, which engage youth as active leaders in their community. They have different chapters all throughout the state of California, and actually their San Francisco chapter is playing a major factor in campaigning and advocating for raising the smoking age to 21, and they're raising awareness about electronic cigarettes, since there isn't a lot of information currently out there about it. And so it's just nice to know that something I used to work for is making progress in something like this today.
That's awesome.
I love it. I think it's great. I must say, I think coming from a country where smoking in Costa Rica it's accepted culturally. I'm not sure why, but it just kind of is. It's not like here. When I first moved here and started going to school, I saw people smoking and it didn't affect me in any way. But then I realized that actually you guys don't like it, and so I never did it, so it doesn't really affect me personally. But I think it's great that at least they're making it a little harder for people, and it just shows that socially we're moving forward.
Yeah, like you said, I think smoking is bad, but we are taking the right steps to hopefully banning it.
Absolutely.
The road to the White House continues to heat up after another round of primaries took place this week. In those primaries, party frontrunners Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton picked up delegates in Arizona, while Ted Cruz saw victory in Utah and Bernie Sanders nabbed victories in Utah and Idaho. Clinton continued her public pursuit of Trump, while Sanders had many extremely popular rallies throughout the West Coast. And a Trump rally was slowed down by protesters in Arizona, with one group even shutting down a major highway for a period of time. The next round of primaries takes place in multiple states this coming weekend, and we will have more for you as it comes in.
According to the New York Times, an independent panel concluded that a disregard for the concerns of the poor and the minority people contributed to the lead poisoning crisis in Flint, Michigan. The five-person panel was assembled by Michigan Governor Rick Schneider last October, and this week released the report, which said the crisis is a, quote, story of a government failure, unpreparedness, delay, inaction, and environmental injustice, end quote. This report contradicted earlier claims by Governor Schneider, who said that the crisis was not a result of ignored requests for help by Flint residents. The governor claims that the crisis came about as a result of bad information he received from an unelected emergency manager who switched the source of the city's drinking water to the Flint River. Although the panel's investigation is now done, Congress is currently conducting their own investigation.
And in our final story, Cal State Fullerton is now one of the 3 CSU campuses recognized as a doctoral university, along with San Diego State and Fresno State. This is determined by the Carnegie Classification of Institutions of Higher Education, the leading classification of U.S. colleges and universities. If a university graduates more than 20 doctoral degrees per year, they are considered a doctoral university. This form of categorization helps guide colleges in the right direction so students can go into their desired professional fields with the best education possible. Thanks to a great education and faculty, Cal State Fullerton continues to improve programs for students.
That concludes this episode of The Report. Thanks again to Cassidy Jo Fortin for joining us today. You can find her on Tech On right here on Titan TV.
Yes, Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us. Your energy was great. And all of you that are watching us, have a great spring break. Be safe, relax, prepare yourself because the semester is almost over. I'm Michelle Vargas.
I'm Morgan Klein.
I'm Sarah Fenton.
I'm Evan BOYDSTUN.
And I'm Cassidy Jo Fortin. Stay fresh, Fullerton.